We're studying Capricorn, the 10th sign of the zodiac associated with 10th house matters, career, social role. Capricorn is an earth sign and it's cardinal, and its ruling planet is Saturn. Now you have enough there, just those three things, earth, cardinal, Saturn, to work out what Capricorn is. We don't need to remember the keywords. We can have a do-it-yourself approach to the meaning of zodiac signs. Earth, practical, down to earth. Cardinal, takes the initiative, moves things towards a purpose. Saturn, serious, slow, responsible. Here we have Capricorn in a nutshell. And when we look at the Sabian expressions of Capricorn, we start with accomplishment. They like to achieve. They do achieve. The goat image of Capricorn is also something to think about. The goat is that which can climb to the top of a mountain, can exist on almost no real sustenance. It can eat things which other animals can't digest. It's a real austere survivor, Capricorn. And this goes hand in hand with accomplishment in some ways. When we consider the first degree of Capricorn, this is the Indian chief demanding recognition. Demanding recognition. I've got power. I'm the boss. Respect me. That's quite a statement, isn't it? It's really quite a strong statement. And we're not in the pink and fluffy kind of version of the zodiac here. We're not into excessive compassion. We're not into sentimentality at all. We're into the realm of social responsibility that takes on the burden of doing things that other people won't do and can't do. It's very easy for us to knock the rulers, the politicians and the businessmen because they take advantage of their positions of power. Well, they do, and we can knock that corrupt side of it. But the fact that they get into those positions of power and maintain them, that's no easy thing. And Capricorn does that. It can do that. And so the first thing it does, it makes a claim. Capricorn 1. At Capricorn 2, we have the image of the price paid for making a potentially conflicting claim. Typically beauty is the first casualty of war. We have the stained glass windows bombarded, one's broken. Beauty is destroyed by war first. And the war that we're talking about is that I want to achieve that, get out of my way, that kind of war. That's Capricorn's approach to accomplishment. And beauty is very often put on hold whilst we get on with the job. And it has to be remembered and is reminded to us in Capricorn 3 that the soul wants this level of experience. The soul has incarnated in order to experience life on earth. Well, look around you. Life on earth is hard, harsh. The natural world is full of images of death and killing to eat and so on and so forth. It's hard here. And yet the soul wants this experience, and the soul has this avidity of appetite. It wants as much experience as it can get. And that's Capricorn 3, that sense of a yearning to get down and get involved with things. The leader that has claimed his position sometimes has a remarkably difficult task to do, which is to take the group and get them to do the same thing at the same time. When danger threatens, like for example, we're talking about the Indians still actually, in this case we're talking about the party entering a large canoe. An Indian group are all having to move at the same time. Circumstances have changed. They're threatened by whatever, enemies, starvation. They have to move all at the same time. Somebody has to call that we will move now. I'm the chief, I'm saying so, we need to do it. And that attitude of leadership is sometimes a requirement when emergency is at hand. This is not old-fashioned. This is not only primitive life. Climate change, for example, is calling upon us to do major changes collectively, communally. And we don't have such a leader. That's why we're in the mess we're in, because there is no one that can actually say, we all need to do this now, or we die. So we're in real problem because we do not have this Capricorn 4 energy in our culture. Now, Capricorn 5 is the Indians rowing a canoe and dancing a war dance. There is the need to understand that when we try to accomplish something, there will be conflict of a sort. If we're wise, we will understand that that conflict is an inner condition. We are inwardly conflicted, and therefore we can't get what we want out of life. The only reason really why we don't get what we desire is inner conflict. And we externalize that as a problem, or in some cases, a war. And we have to deal with that. So that's the first expression of Capricorn, is accomplishment. The second expression of Capricorn is wisdom. And it's very interesting that we have this following accomplishment, suggesting that when we have done all that we need to do to accomplish our goals, including dealing with conflict, especially inner conflict, we grow in wisdom. Makes sense, doesn't it? And we come to the 6th degree of Capricorn, which is the image of the dark passageway with 10 logs. Is a not clear image, but it refers to our willingness to finish that which we begin. We've got the resources, the 10 logs. The tunnel is not known. We enter the future having made a decision to do something, and we do it. We don't give up because it's difficult. That's not Capricorn, is it? We complete on our tasks. And if you're interested in measuring the characteristics, the character of a person, just find out what they've completed and what they've just given up because it's too much difficulty. You'll get a real measure of the person. And Capricorn will be the one that's actually started a difficult job and finished it in a plodding, determined kind of way. That's Saturn. Capricorn 7 is the veiled prophet of power. Here we have a visionary. A prophet can see the future. Now there are two aspects of the future. There's what must be and there's what may be. Well, what must be, must be. The sun must rise tomorrow. Rain will follow the sun. Certain things must be. Typically, the cyclical nature of life is something that we can anticipate. But there's other things. You can be sure that the set of these circumstances and those resources will bring about that result. This is good management. It's not really much of a mystery. But very few people, other than Capricorn, find it pleasurable and easy to have that level of being able to see the future. And there's also what may be, another aspect of the future. What must be, what may be. Well, nobody knows what may be. And yet a prophet is somebody who speaks as though they can see into the future. And they can in the sense that they can see what must be. And they can use their intuition to find an explanation of also what may be. You don't get to rise to the top of the mountain without making a few judgment calls about what may be around the corner. And Capricorn will always trust its logical mind if it can, and yet will nevertheless trust its intuition, because it can make a reasonable guess as to what's coming next. And that gives the power that goes along with this sign. The veiled prophet of power. The veiling suggests a certain humility even, certainly modesty, that goes with Capricorn. Capricorn has got this definite relationship with humility and arrogance. It can be very much of service to the community, self-sacrificial, beautiful, loves to serve, until such time as it's become irreplaceable because it's done all the jobs for all that time. Nobody can replace Capricorn because they've been of service for so long, and then they become the leaders, and they can do arrogance then quite well. The 8th position is that birds singing happily, and Capricorn does know its own way of being happy. It's not excited and bubbling up with childlike joy as some of the signs can do. Capricorn's happiness is that all is well in the world. I'm on top of things. I've done my duty. I've done my tasks. My plans are all working fine. I can see that they're going to come to fruition. Yeah, I'm happy with that. It's a very workaday, realistic, dependable happiness. I'm not happy today and wonder tomorrow whether I'll be happy. I'm happy this month. I'm happy this year. I'm happy for the next 10 years. That's the time frame that Capricorn likes to enjoy. You know, they got this Saturn way of thinking. They care about the future, and then that gives them a sense of stability. So Capricorn 9, we have the angel carrying a harp. An image of love and harmony and beauty. It's a sense of all is well in the world and I'm feeling good. It's an extension of that happiness in the last degree to this higher level, kind of more of a spiritual level, a cosmic level of happiness. And we have in Capricorn one of the most ardent of spiritual seekers. They're the disciples, the monks and the nuns, the austere kind of life is fine for them. They give up on earthly pleasures quite happily. Not entirely, of course. And that's why they grow in their spiritual understandings. Capricorn 10, the albatross feeding from the hand. And that's an even higher level in a sense, in that this spiritual wisdom radiates. The wisdom of serving others, the wisdom of planning ahead, the wisdom of being content with the limitations of life. That's what gave rise to the birds singing happily, really, that Capricorn understands there's a formula, and if you work that out, that's it. That's what's going to make you happy. And that formula includes the acceptance of limitations. And this gives rise to this spiritual sense of the angels playing the harp. And now we have the albatross image of being able to radiate such joy and harmony and well-being that the animal kingdom trusts you. It's wisdom, isn't it? In the third expression of Capricorn, devotion, we come to see how Capricorn expresses their high spiritual principles and wisdom, the awareness of how it all works together. And the first image of this batch, the 11th degree of Capricorn, is the large group of pheasants. And we have a sense of the pheasant, especially the male pheasant bird, is gloriously decorated. You wonder why there's so much attention given to beautifying this bird, just so that it can breed, like a peacock, really. And that embellishment of nature to make natural things stand out for their beauty is something that we're studying in this degree. The improvement that we can make by refining our relationship with nature. And Capricorn is earthy. It wants to work with nature. It wants to work with the physical, and it has that kind of high spiritual wisdom of how to do that. It makes practical use of its ability to refine nature in the 11th degree. In the 12th degree, there's a sense of sharing this ability, having learned how everything works, including the natural kingdom, to talk about it, to share it, to teach. And very often there's an authority aspect of this. Capricorn tends towards being an authority. In Capricorn 13, you have a fire worshipper, and the mystical quality of Capricorn is included here. Its understanding of the nature of life goes to such a level that it appreciates that it's all on fire, all of it. The cellular shifts within us are caused by tiny fires within, and the burning of fuel to make food, to make fuel within us. You know, we are all of fire, and without the sun, that ball of fire in the sky, we'd be dead within minutes, and so on. So that essential knowledge, the essential understanding of the mysticism of nature's ways, this is the particular image we have for the devotional expression of Capricorn, the fire worshipper. In the 14th image of Capricorn, we have the ancient bas-relief carving. It's making art last for a very long time. It's carving in stone. It can last 1,000 years, and that whole sort of idea of wanting something to last fulfills the aspects of Capricorn, both the devotional aspect, you know, trying to make something so beautiful, people want to preserve it for thousands of years, and also the sense of accomplishment, because you can stamp your mark on the world, and the wisdom that things that last are precious. We make precious things last. That's what we do. You know, we look after them, and we make them well in the first place. So that's Capricorn 14. Capricorn 15, many toys in a children's ward. So the kids are in hospital, somebody's given them lots and lots of toys to play with. Well, it wasn't the staff of the hospital, it was well-wishers. This is the sense of Capricorn now moving into an expression of devotion through its ability to provide for others, and thoughtfulness and willingness to do that above and beyond expectation levels. The fourth expression of Capricorn from 16 to 20 is fortitude. It begins with the boys and girls in their gym suits, and a sense of taking on the grit of competition and going out and training and exerting yourself and doing something which is essentially voluntary sport, because it's good for you, and that whole thing of toughening yourself up to live is present within this one, because life can be tough, and you can't get self-pitying about that. You've got to develop the fortitude to cope. In Capricorn 17, a girl surreptitiously bathing in the nude, young child, aware that society doesn't really approve of nakedness. She's doing it anyway, surreptitiously. And we have this very interesting kind of juxtaposition in Capricorn between the extent to which they will be free of society's burdens where they're unnecessary, like in this case, enforcing us to have inhibitions. It's inappropriate. And that aspect of Capricorn, the Saturnine aspect, the Bacchanalia period, which we don't much think of as Capricornian, but Capricorns can be very hedonistic. And here is one example of where this little girl just wants to swim in the nude, and she doesn't care whether it's allowed or whether she should. She doesn't want to be seen, but just to get out of trouble, get out of harm's way. She has no inhibitions. And I think Capricorn is both the imposer of impositions in its kind of state reputation, the fact that they're officers of state, but nevertheless personally they tend to be rather happy to do what they want to do, and take the pleasures that they want to take, actually. Much like our members of parliament and Congress and what have you being representatives of a system that tells you what the morality is, and yet they secretly go away and do things that we would never do, totally immorally behind closed curtains. And so we have that sense of Capricorn doing what it wants to do in the 17th degree. In the 18th degree, the Union Jack, the state itself, populated by Capricornian types of people and operating as a Capricornian institution. It's grim and dark and devilish, really, the state. The Union Jack, I mean, what a symbol of oppression and colonialism and abuse of others. It's a terrible image, really. And yet, it's not to be judged, it's just to be observed. That is what we have collectively done. We've created empires and colonialism and so on in our psyche collectively as a species for some reason. And if we hark back to the first degree of Capricorn, when this Indian chief claimed his position, claimed his power personally, here's the Union Jack doing the same thing on the level of the state. We claim our power. This is our flag. Serve the flag, And this applies to the people of the country. We all have to serve the flag of our country. And we're no freer about the policies than anyone that is in a different country subject to the colonialization power. So there is that side of Capricorn, the dark side, where what was necessary has become corrupted. And so we have to take on that challenge of making sure we're not corrupted by the power of state. Now, if you're a representative of the state, you've got to do your job according to your spiritual principles. And if you're subject to the state, you've got to get out of their way, that they're bullies and they're unfair and controlling. Get out of the way, Don't interact too much with government. That's how it works, I think. The small child with the shopping bag in Capricorn 19, the child is too small to carry this big, heavy shopping bag, and yet it's trying. And this is an aspect of the fortitude that Capricorn has to take on a job that nobody else can do and come up to scratch with it. Lovely, but we have to be careful that we don't take on more than we can handle. A Buddhist teaching suggests that we should take on the maximum challenge we can comfortably handle and not to stretch ourselves beyond that, but not be too self-indulgent and do less than that. Capricorn 20, the hidden choir singing. Well, it's hidden. There's no sense in which this is showing off that we can sing. In fact, it's a choir, so we hear the choir, not the individual. And I think that's how Capricorn does approach the spiritual question, with humility, with modesty, in a group setting, but it's approved of. This isn't a radical mysticism, this is an approved of beautiful aspect of religion, really. So that's the fortitude of Capricorn. As Capricorn progresses through its own personal process, it comes eventually to understand that reconciliation within the community is an aspect of the highest spiritual wisdom. And we look at reconciliation in the fifth expression. And in the first example of that, at the degree 21, the relay race, where we are learning that it's best to cooperate. The competition that we like to engage in is against the group of people within which we cooperate. And there we have that interesting juxtaposition of competition and cooperation that Capricorn really masters. So we're discussing the reconciliation now, more of the cooperation side. And Capricorn 22, the general accepting defeat gracefully. we try to win, but we can't win every battle. We don't have to win every battle to win the war. To accept defeat gracefully is to live, to fight another day. To know that the successes and the failures in life are just trial and error processes. Neither one is permanent. This happens to be, on the face of it, a failure. I accept that. Next job, please. Not getting lost in the idea that defeat is anything other than a bit of a setback. To strengthen our resolve and to reconcile our yearnings with what's realistic. That's another aspect here. Capricorn doesn't dream wildly, but that's not to say they don't dream big. It's just that they reconcile the difference between what can be dreamt and what can be realized. In Capricorn 23, 2 awards for bravery in war. A certain type of person gets an award for bravery, a brave person. A very, very different type of person gets 2 awards for bravery. It's not just an accident that just popped up, it's what they're about. And you have this with Capricorn where they do such a lot in the name of social service that they keep on getting awards for that. And recognition that they're good people. We honour them, and they find that motivating. They enjoy that sense of communal approval. Capricorn 24, the woman entering a convent. This actually is an aspect of community approval. The community at large approves of convents. We support the fact that certain people don't want to be in the community at the moment, and they want to go away and actually be in a smaller community with a much more rigorous sense of what it's doing together. It's a much more refined focus of intention. So they're not really escaping the community, but they're intensifying their relationship with the community. And this is an aspect of everything Capricorn is, the ability to put aside all the things of no consequence, trivial pleasures and so on, in order to focus, perhaps in an austere way, on a really definite goal. Sense of reconciliation is present here as well. It's taking this idea of that difference between what we desire in an earth plane and what we are in the spiritual level. Just finding out where that point of reconciliation, where that track of reconciliation can be found. And then Capricorn 25, the Oriental rug dealer. Imagine a rug dealer in Turkey or somewhere selling prayer mats. That's probably their most frequent sale. And a prayer mat is an example of where the spiritual purpose and a traditional form, art form, are used for commercial purposes. And we've got spirituality, emotionality of our culture. Society's emotions are expressed in their culture. And commerciality, their need to exchange goods and services. All of that can be brought together. And Capricorn does that exceedingly well. It somehow manages to reconcile all of the various disparate parts of life in its way of being. And that's the image here in Capricorn 25. The 6th expression of Capricorn is mastery. And they've been moving in this direction all the time, haven't they? They get on top of things. And when we study the first of this batch, the 26th degree of Capricorn, it's a water sprite, a watery image dancing to the rhythm of life. And once again we have this strange juxtaposition in Capricorn where their saturnine seriousness, their ambition and so on is what we see, very earthy indeed. And yet there's this another part to them where they are in tune with the mystery. It's just that they express it in a very earthy way. But we're reminded in this degree of the ability to tune in, the water sprite, the rather mystical, ethereal image of a mischievous, sensitive, intuitive responder. And I like that image. Now you get to 27, Capricorn, a mountain pilgrimage. And the true disciple, doing work, working hard, overcoming, mountain pilgrimage, you've got to climb up the mountain, a pilgrimage, you've got to go to some holy place, give up your earthy things for a while in order to re-establish relationship with God, or whatever you want to call that highest principle. That's very definitely an aspect of the discipleship within Capricorn. 28, the large aviary, is a sense of many birds giving many messages. And this is what happens when you go to the top of a mountain. In other words, you go on retreat. You find the mind is clear. You're not distracted in your thoughts. And because of the clarity of mind, it slows down. The monkey mind slows down. It doesn't grasp at ideas. It just notices. And it notices that there are more subtle messages. And so there's this sort of ability of tuning into the existence of more information than was previously recognized. And we go further in this, where the woman reading tea leaves can translate those messages into meaningful advice for people who need some comfort. And that's in Capricorn 29. And that leads us to Capricorn 30, a secret business conference. And we speak here of the giants, the billionaires, the string pullers, the guys that have, and women who have climbed to the top of the mountain, and their families before them have passed down wealth and influence and so on. And they meet secretly, and they make their decisions, and their decisions influence the rest of us. And of course, one corrupt version of this would be called conspiracy theory. However, whatever there is in the world, there must also be its opposite, because this is the world of duality. So as much as there probably is, from time to time, a meeting between billionaires to decide prices of things and govern economies and even war, and that's probably going on, there is the other side of that as well. There is quietly tucked away, rather secretively held, other meetings between highly developed spiritual masters who are pulling the strings in a different direction. And this is central to Sufi understanding, that this is called the conference of the birds sometimes. Those of us who are on this wavelength of spiritual progression, we've got our way of connecting. And when we meet together in a circle and we focus our intention on light, that's another example of this secret business conference. And I think we have here this real challenge for Capricorn. They could be on the top of either of those two mountains. The one mountain would be the skyscraper, the business world where no doubt these secret meetings take place. But they could be equally on the top of the other mountain, the highway in the Himalayas, meditating and tuning in with others telepathically at a distance and coming up with spiritual dispensations that help us along. That balance must exist. How could we continue to survive were there not a balance between the forces of light and the forces of darkness? It couldn't happen. We've had these power possessors in positions of authority ever since history books were written. whether we're talking Babylon or Rome, or the Nazi Party or the British Empire, all of these attempts to dominate others, it's not new, and nobody has ever won permanently. They all win for a little while. But there's always the ongoing spiritual teachings, the mysteries. They just get passed on in some mysterious way, secretively, and they hold the balance. That's the game that we're playing. And Capricorn can stand at the head of either of those two mountains.